Hello, everyone, and welcome to a Monday stream with me, Panda Pops, and I am going to be joined by some amazing people that are going to be talking about the Game Maker Fund Builders Challenge. I hope you guys are super excited. We did have a form for you guys to fill out for AMA questions. You can still ask those questions in chat and we'll try and get them answered. But the first set of questions that we will be answering during the AMA will be the ones that were submitted ahead of time. Super excited for you guys, and I'm going to just hand it off straight over to the content creator team for this Builders Challenge AMA. So let me switch the screen. And we're off.
Hello. Hi. It's great to see you guys. We're so happy with the feedback we've been getting about the Builders Challenge so far. It's great to see what everybody's been doing on social media, promoting their games, having great campaigns, doing raids. Honestly, it's been a blast to see all of that. I wanted to start off this AMA with a quick recap of what the Builders Challenge is all about, just to make sure that everybody's on the same page. Because since the last AMA, we have made a couple of changes, and this is just to make sure, well, just everybody's informed. All right. All right. So let's get going. Cool. So the Builders Challenge, who's eligible? Well, all creators that have eligible experiences. And we're going to go into the eligibility rules in just a couple of seconds. Now for the timeline, this is going to start on February 12th, so that was last Monday, and it's going to last 10 weeks. And we're going to end things on April 22nd. Now the key mechanic here for this Builder Challenge is that out of a weekly sand pool, you're going to get a percentage of that pool, depending on your experiences, player engagement levels. For our rewards, we have 1 million sand over 10 weeks that will be distributed on a weekly basis. Note that for the first 2 weeks, we won't be distributing the rewards just yet, but we will be distributing them at the end of month because we're checking everything with the data, double checking everything, making sure that we don't have any cheaters and that everybody gets the rewards that they deserve. It's also important to note that starting on week 6, we will be doubling the rewards if we see 100 new experiences on that week. Now, moving forward to the next slide. Here, we're going to check out how your earnings are calculated. So let's say that on the first week, you got 1,000 sand. Now, where does that number come from? So if our total sand pool is 100,000 sand, and that the percentage of the reward pool that you get is 1%, that's 1,000 sand in your pocket. And we're calculating the total reward pool by taking the number of eligible experiences and timing that by a flat 100 sand. So the more experiences we see on the map, the bigger the reward pool. And note that that 100 flat number actually turns to 200 starting on week 6. Now, moving on to the next slide, and let's cover how your percentage of the reward pool is calculated. So in here, we're taking what we're calling your meaningful playtime out of the total meaningful playtime out of all eligible experiences. And your meaningful playtime is calculated by taking the average session length of your experience and multiplying that by the number of visits done by players that have completed at least one quest or experience. So, and note that's 100 visits, not 100 unique visits from unique players. Hope that makes sense. Follow up with any questions if this is unclear. Now, moving on, let's check out what you need to do in order to be eligible to your the Builders Challenge. First of all, you need to be of legal age, you need to have your wallet set up, and your experience must not be banned by our Sandbox content moderation team. That's very important. And your experience must be on GameMaker 0.9 because we want to see the awesome creations that you have using our new rule system. You must make sure that your experience, that your account must have opened the GameMaker on 7 different days, and that your experience is currently not in an event. This is to make sure that there is fair play across all contestants for the Builders Challenge. And of course, your account must not be owned by a TSB employee or a Sandbox IP. There are some special cases because you might have some questions about whether or not you're eligible for the Builders Challenge. Let's say you're a student and you've published your experience on where your courses land, then yes, of course you're eligible. And what about if you're a game jam that was part of one of our IP themed game jams? Are you eligible in those circumstances? Yes, you are. And what if you were previously part of the Game Maker Fund and that you had one of your game financed and now you're publishing it on the Sandbox? Yeah, you're eligible to the Builders Challenge. Now, experiences that are not eligible to the Builders Challenge are brands that have a special agreement with the Sandbox, such as Snoop Dogg, experiences that are part of ongoing events, and experiences that were banned by our moderation team. Cool. Now, moving forward, what's our timeline? So we launched last week. We're doing this AMA today, and we're really expecting to have the first reward distribution by end of February. This is because we're checking out all the data, double checking everything, making sure that we don't have any cheaters and that our data is 100% correct. Cool. We're very happy with what's been done so far, and we can't wait to see what else you're going to create during this challenge. Now we're going to go to the AMA part of today's event.
Right, there we go. Perfect. I will be asking you guys the questions, and you'll be answering them. So let's go through these. Our first question is by Fred and Third. Does updating your map during the event make any difference in your eligibility or results of challenge payout?
No, it doesn't. Updating your map doesn't change anything in the numbers. Unless if you update your map and our content moderation team finds any issues with the new updates that you've done, it shouldn't affect anything with your eligibility.
What if someone were to switch out their experience on their land for a different experience? Does that have any difference in your eligibility or results of the challenge payout?
It does, because we are counting the data for each experience, not data that is tied to a specific land. So if you change the experience that you have on your land, you're actually changing the content that you have on there. Therefore, the eligibility rules will be different and you need to abide by them.
Perfect. So our next question is by Tom Voxel. New Alpha Client 0.910 version came out, but the old 9.9 is not prompting players to update to the new versions, as previous versions did. Players can still play games in old versions without even knowing. Are all game analytics calculated regardless of game version?
Yes, they are. Version has nothing to do with the way we calculate this.
Another question by Tom Voxel is, could we please get higher refresh rate for number of times a game was played? Not analytics after passing 161 views, but number that we see on the game card, on the map, next to ranging score and social media, multiplayer, under game, title, TNX, and so on.
Yeah, on this topic, our current refresh rate for the data is daily. So you get the new information on a daily basis. We are making performance improvements in order to have that at a higher refresh rate. However, I cannot confirm at the moment that we will get that in time for the rest of the Builders Challenge. We are also making modifications so that you get your data earlier and that you no longer need to have a 161 unique views, but you can just start off by getting the data when you get just one view, for example.
So Sparky Snickle asks, any other details pertaining to what constitutes as play, such as minimum amount of time spent in an experience?
At the moment, no. Time played is just time played by players like you would play in any other game. However, as we move forward, if we encounter issues with potential cheaters or anything like that, we might add some extra rules in order to, well, make sure we counteract that. But for now, that is not the case.
So Stella Hanlon has a question, which is, how do they know they've entered the Builders Challenge?
So entering the Builders Challenge is automatic once you've published your experience and followed all of our eligibility rules. So you can check the rules and check for yourself if you're actually eligible for all that. What we will be doing is sending out, starting next week, a weekly email to everybody that has published an experience and that is potentially eligible so that you are aware of that. So we'll be saying on Twitter when we send out this email. And if, for example, you didn't receive it, that might be that you might not be eligible, and you'll be able to follow up and maybe find out why.
I feel like this question has kind of been asked already, like
Mhm.
answered already, but I'm just gonna ask it again, just in case people are still confused by it. Which are there rules or conditions on which type of games can be eligible to earn?
So if by type of game you mean game types such as platformers or resource games, no, that is not part of our AWG rules. However, we do have certain criterias to make sure that some experiences are not part of the Builders Challenge, such as what we've previously stated. For example, if your experience has been banned by our content moderation team, if your experience is not on the Game Maker 0.9, or if your experience is part of one of our current Sandbox events.
So our next question is by Little Legion. They've got quite a few questions here, so
Mhm.
we're gonna go at them one at a time, I think. So, please test and share what determines loading time for an experience. Is it the size of the map? Is it the number of terraformed blocks? Is it the number of assets? Is it the size of the assets? Is is it the number and type of logics, components, behaviors? Basically, they want to know what determines the loading time for experiences. They want to know what is determining that,
Yeah,
if we can answer.
Yeah, I can take that one, PJ. So
no worries.
it's a little bit all of the above, but I think and we don't have the exact answer, but obviously a way lighter experience, especially as far as the number of assets, is going to load way faster. I know that can be a compromise where working with tech to make sure that beautiful experiences with a lot of assets can have faster loading times. But if today loading times are a priority for you, I would recommend testing a way where you have less number of assets as the first way to reduce those, and then start testing with the other things you mentioned accordingly.
Yeah.
And oh, sorry,
Go
I
ahead.
can follow up on that with a couple of details. The size of the map itself doesn't really influence your loading time. However, the bigger the map, the more asset there tends to be on one because you're putting more and more elements on there. So in a way, size of the map is a determining factor. Blocks aren't the biggest thing that influence performance issues and loading time, although it does have a slight amount of influence on there. The biggest elements is actually the number of assets and how your assets are built. So assets with high amounts of faces have a big influence on the number of on your graphic card, whereas assets with lots amounts of nodes here rather influence your processor. Uh, we could share that in the chat, but there were recommendations from the late Creator Fund about how to build your assets in order to optimize them.
Yeah, we share those optimizations very regularly across all of our streams as well. Optimizations guidelines, which also show in Vox Edit. So when you're building assets, it will actually show you if you're going past our optimization. So to be more optimized with your asset, it is recommended 5,000 faces maximum and 175 nodes. Now, there are some intricacies with this because if you are building a static asset with a bunch of nodes, like you've built it with 200 nodes, if that asset isn't moving, if there's no animations, the way the game maker reads that asset is only one node. So it also is determined by what you are building. So there's lots of different nuances with those, but ideally keeping your assets below 5,000 faces, under 175 nodes is the recommended for that, for optimization reasons. Let's move on to their next question, which was Do the number of complex hierarchy presets make a difference in loading up a map? Would a blank map with a spawner spawning presets with all the configurations in game time perform better than loading a map compared with a map with everything pre-placed?
Yes, that is actually true. I've had our internal level designers confirm this. It is better to have that.
And their final one for this section of their questions is, would the in-game performance of spawned presets perform less well? Oh, wait, that's kind of the same question.
Same thing,
Yeah, same question. Let's go on to the next question, which is, can they have a blue tick for Builders Challenge qualified experiences, or at least a way to verify if the experience is currently qualified?
Yeah, I get that. The idea of having a blue tick is something we wanted to do. However, we weren't able to set that up as easily as we thought. So this is why from now on a weekly basis, we will be sending out an email to all eligible creators that have eligible experiences for the Builders Challenge. We will set up a process and that's sent out on the same day every week, and therefore you will have the information if you're eligible or not.
Perfect. Their next question is, can they get basic stats per experience for unique numbers of players visited, average day duration of play, number of completions for quests, number of player by region, etc.?
So this is all information that, we will be changing. We will be removing the 161 unique visitors threshold and put it to 1 so that all creators can see their stats straight from the get-go.
Is the maximum, so this is by Lanza, is the maximum weekly reward pool size fixed at 100k per week, 1 million sand divided by 10 weeks?
So it's not fixed to 100k per week. We are taking the total number of eligible experiences. So let's say we have 400 on week 1, and we're multiplying that by a flat 100 sand. So this is how we're calculating the weekly price pool. So it doesn't make 1k 100k per week.
So Mr. Curly asks, what efforts are you making to ensure that there is a fair playing field for all creators and that good gameplay is prioritized? Currently, the most played games are mostly from large teams who can give large sand rewards to people who play their games. Small teams and solo developers don't have that luxury.
I can take this one if you want. Hello, everyone. So we definitely understand the challenge here, and the idea is obviously to shift to a model where engagement is the priority. So if you manage to bring engagement to your experience, visit, time spent, you should be rewarded against that. Having said that, we also want to highlight also more indie people, individuals, and games. That's why we have the featuring every week into the Sandbox. So featuring is the homepage of the Sandbox. You enter the homepage, you have a couple of experience highlighted. It's also highlighted in the Sandbox map, and also in our weekly communication, emails, tweets. And that's a way also to highlight, as you said, smaller teams or individuals still proposing very interesting and compelling experiences for the Sandbox players community. So that's the way we try to balance that.
Yeah, and I'll just add there as well that on our live streams, every single week, we have a mentions of the week. We mention artists, we mention people that are selling assets in the marketplace, content creators, but we also mention builders and games that are on on the map, and we specifically look for not just the regular people that we see that create good games. They do get highlighted, of course, because they're creating good games, but we do also find the smaller single devs that are creating good experiences, and they get played before we mention them. So there is somebody there playing those games and letting us know, like, hey, highlight that one. So we are showing a wide variety in lots of different avenues, whether that's featuring on the map, featuring in newsletters, or mentioning on our live streams or on Twitter and so on.
I'm adding
and
two
also
tips.
don't be discouraged by bigger studios producing, right? Like I think the history of platforms from the App Store to Steam is full of Roblox, of one or two people creators that can make the most enjoyable games and experience and become very popular. So while a bigger group can probably create things that look higher production value faster, one person team, one or two people team can create very fun experiences that get picked up and receive a lot of engagement.
Yeah, I'll agree with that as well, because we see it on the game jams. We see lots of people with only one or two people teams, and they do place within the top 10. So it is possible to be a single dev or in a very small team and not a large studio and create very good experiences. So definitely, as Nicholas said, don't be discouraged. Let's go on to our
Maybe I
next.
can add.
Oh yes, of course. Sorry.
Yes. I can add two tips for the community for you. One is I encourage you to use TSB Builders Challenge hashtag. So feel free to use that to tweet. So I'll be super happy also to retweet your experience highlighting your game. And number two, I don't know if you have noticed, but directly into your experience page, when you want to publish, there is a little link where you can request or propose your experience to be featured. So I encourage you to review that. The team is having a look every week to all those submissions. And that's where we start when we are featuring experiences every week.
Let's move on to the next question by Mr. Gold. Does having more experiences on the map mean having a different score multiplier?
No, having multiple experiences from the same account does not in any way affect the score multiplier.
Like it, quick and simple. Next question. When will the general ranking of the top 100 be released?
At the moment, since we're double checking all of the data on week 1, we're hoping to be able to release a top 1 ranking when we distribute the first rewards. So by the end of the month of February.
And the next question by the same person was also when will the rewards be given, which you've just answered, by the end of February. So as a company, can we have multiple wallets connected to the same KYB, or can we make just one?
I don't want to. I will come back to that person. I think I'll take a note from Futura Meta Futura. Actually, come back to them because I don't want to say anything that could be wrong.
Sounds reasonable to me. So Maz 4444 asks, are you guys going to announce how many experiences participated every week? Are you going to also tell us numbers of stats for the top 10 so we have a better understanding of where they are in the leaderboard? I actually really love that question.
Yeah, that is a great question. So we want to do that. We want to be as transparent as possible and share that. I think that we just haven't made a decision on this, but we will have to double check internally if this is something we can do.
Yeah, it all goes with the idea of this being a pilot or an initial test. So I think it's a great feature. I've seen it in most successful platforms. There tends to be a top 10. It can be really helpful to know where you stand. It can be a little bit challenging for then people to wanting to do the same thing. But I think in general, Seb's vision for this and for the sandbox in general is full transparency, share a lot, tell people what's going on. So we'll try to do as much of that as possible. And some of the questions that we don't have an answer to is not like we ignore them. Then we go back, we see, okay, how do we iterate and do more, and what can tech and product do to make this better? So thank you.
So, Chungri asks, if I were to launch my experience today, how soon would it be promoted / showcased by the Sandbox? I feel like that would depend on how good the experience is.
That's very specific. The way that we have to promote and showcase experiences now on the Sandbox is by featuring them. And we only feature experiences that we deem are interesting to our player community. And that can take between 1 to 2 weeks, depending, because we only feature 5 experiences per week. So let's say we have a huge backlog and we see lots of great content. It could take 1 to 2 weeks if you're selected.
So the second question is pretty much very similar. I'm going to ask it anyway. But once a creator's published their experience on their land, how long does it take Sandbox to showcase, promote these new experiences, to deliver new users and increase player traffic? Because they feel like they can create appealing promo, screenshots, descriptions, videos on their experience profile page themselves, but they are very bad at advertising and marketing.
So specifically for one experience, we do not have a system to promote and increase traffic specifically to one experience compared we do have the featuring system that I've previously talked about. We have a system in place to increase player acquisition in general, but that is not really a topic that I'm familiar with. I think somebody from our marketing team might be better at doing that. One thing that I can say, and I know that this is one of the challenging things of this Build a Challenge, which is actually getting traffic to your experience. We are setting up a couple of educational materials in order to help you do that, so you have a better understanding of what you can do, what you can't set up, in order to increase traffic to your experience.
I would also say, of course, you mentioned the featuring thing, but we do take requests on live streams. If you've created a really good game, we do play those experiences live on stream. So we've had 2 questions so far that I've picked up from the chat. So is there any way to know what the current rankings for week 1 are, or will we only know at the end of February?
So right now, as we're double checking all the data, I can't really say anything for now, and we don't want to share anything that might be false, as we're making sure that everything is okay with our eligibility filters, and that our anti-cheat team is checking for potential cheaters. So for now, we won't be giving out the rankings until we distribute the rewards by the end of February.
And how many eligible games have been published in the last 7 days? Do we have that to share with the people? Are we able to share that?
I can share that. At the moment, we have between 300 and 400 eligible games.
Sounds pretty good. So we've got another one from the chat, which is, how do we deem which experiences are interesting to the community? Stats, what if the game is actually addictive but doesn't have a community yet?
Would you mind repeating that question?
So, so how is the Sandbox deeming experiences interesting to the community? So how is that being sort of filtered?
Okay. So these are qualitative criteria. So we are checking out, okay, is this an original game? Is this something we've never seen before on the Sandbox and that we haven't seen in previous events? So that's one of our criteria, originality. The other one is overall, is it fun? Is it well polished? Has it been well QA'd? And then we're also checking out, well, of course, doesn't have any sensible or potentially weird content. So yeah, we're really checking the fun factor here. And I think, yeah, these are our criteria so far.
I think this goes a little bit back to the previous question about how do I build my own community, right?
Mhm.
Something that I encourage you to do is really find your own players, even a small group of them, and see what they say, and try to understand how they feel about an experience you make. And ultimately, the more you will be able to drive players to this challenge and to your experiences, the more we'll be able to reward. Ideally, this builder challenges one day can become larger and more frequent and more important because you have built a series of small communities that play either all the games or a few games. And essentially, we will reward you instead of rewarding directly the players. That's where the thinking is going. So you can test yourself even with a small group and then large from that going over and over, and we'll pick it up and help you out eventually. It's similar to, again, what happens in mobile gaming with what it's called soft launch or test launch. I know we don't have a lot of the tools yet to do this as accurately on the Sandbox, but it can be replicated qualitatively.
So we have one last question that's come in, and I might be able to answer this, but if you guys have a better answer for this than what I'm thinking, I'll let you guys answer. But because I'm not too sure if it touches on this, but does anti-cheat detection mean legit players are going to be banned again? This is something that we have seen happen in the past, and what changes have been made between the last anti-cheat detection system and the current one. Now, before anybody goes to answer, obviously, at no point are we going to go into detail over what our detection methods are, because that's not good for us to tell the cheaters how we're detecting them. But if anybody has a better answer to what I'm thinking, feel free to jump in. But for me, I would say this is a little bit different. We're not detecting cheating players. It's more the people who have created the experiences, and it's much easier to detect bots playing an experience than people that are trying to play a system.
As you said, Panda, we can't go into too much details about the changes to the system. That just we would be shooting ourselves in the foot. However, what I can say is that we are testing the top experiences to make sure that the numbers are legit.
But if anybody else has any other questions, feel free to ask while we awkwardly vamp to see if... Well, actually, we've gone for 40 minutes. We've done not too bad. This seems to have gone very well. We had a lot of good questions. And I will say to the people who did submit questions that weren't answered, these were either because they weren't enough to do with the Builders Challenge, and so we couldn't really answer them here, and that they would be better off having a different AMA session for those particular questions. We're still getting when leaderboard, so we'll skip past that.
I have something to add. I really like what I read in the chat, and I think there's a lot of great ideas. In general, my team would also like to be helpful, supportive, scrappy, and try to see where those ideas go. So I encourage, if you can get together in groups of creators and have plans and have tactics that you think can help drive new players to your experiences, either as part of the challenge or in the future or as part of a future challenge, I'd love to hear them. Reach out to me, reach out to someone in the community that can put you in touch with me. Ideally, if it's a little bit more of a formed plan or strategy where we can start having a discussion more than just something very high level. But we don't want to leave you alone in this. We want to at least collaborate with you, at least hear it out and give you our perspective as maybe someone who's a little bit more on the other side of the platform or the other side of the industry.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, we are all here to support one another to try and build the metaverse. Basically, we're here to try and build everybody up. I don't think we've had some funny questions come in. So maybe we should end on that. So let's end on a funny question. So who would win in a fight, a taco or a grilled cheese sandwich?
Hey, I don't have an answer to that. I'm guessing if you're lactose intolerant, if the taco is lactose intolerant, the grilled cheese will win. That's my only answer.
What a unique answer to that. I was just thinking, well, I like tacos more, so the taco, I guess. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I hope you enjoyed this AMA. We do hope to bring you more AMAs happening. A big thank you to both Nicola, Matthew, and PJ for being here to answer your questions, to put this AMA together. Huge emotes, a ton of emotes in chat. Right, do it. Emote for them because, you know, they don't usually stream like me, the professional who had her mic turned off earlier. So anyway, thank you guys. I will see you in a few minutes because I will be doing a Vox Edit stream with you guys in about 10 minutes. So as always, have a good morning, afternoon, evening. Oh, and this will be uploaded on YouTube 24 hours later. Wherever you are in the metaverse, goodbye from me and goodbye from the amazing people within this AMA. Bye.